The air in San Antonio hung heavy with an oppressive humidity that whispered secrets of the storm to come. In the affluent neighborhood of Stone Oaks, where perfectly manicured lawns met grand facades, a sinister tension crackled beneath the surface. Behind the doors of 10,042 Solitude Cove, a chilling mystery was about to unravel, one that would cast long, dark shadows over dreams of success and love. On that fateful Friday afternoon, a concerned call to the Bexar County Sheriff's Office set off a chain of events that would expose the fragility of the American dream, leaving a community stunned and a family shattered. The elusive scent of betrayal lingered in the air, mingling with the sweet aroma of blossoming magnolias, as deputies crossed the threshold of a seemingly perfect home, unaware of the nightmare that awaited them within. The morning of February 28th, 2019, dawned with a deceptive serenity in Stone Oaks. The neighborhood, home to sprawling estates and tree-lined avenues, seemed an enclave of peace and success. Yet, within the walls of one of these stately homes, a storm brewed silently. The McDonald residence, a testament to their hard-earned triumphs, stood imposingly, a symbol of the American dream realized. But, as is often the case, appearances can deceive, and beneath its polished exterior, a tale of ambition, betrayal, and tragedy was quietly unraveling. Andrian McDonald began her day, as always, with a disciplined precision that spoke to her character and her drive. The morning air was thick with humidity, the promise of rain lurking in the overcast sky, as she laced her running shoes and prepared for her daily ritual at the gym. The rhythm of her life, marked by an unyielding commitment to health and business, was as steady as the beat of her heart, which pulsed with the vitality of her Jamaican roots. Inside the McDonald home, the scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the aroma of the blooming magnolias that bordered their garden. The walls, adorned with reminders of their journey, photographs from a modest town in Jamaica to the opulence of San Antonio, whispered stories of dreams pursued and realized. Among these echoes, however, lingered the subtle undertone of discord, a quiet tension that had become a fixture in their lives. Andrian was a force to be reckoned with, a woman whose strength and determination had propelled her from the sun-drenched shores of Jamaica to the complex world of American entrepreneurship. Her business acumen was evident in the success of Starlight Homes Assisted Living, a venture that had flourished under her guidance. She had taken the seeds of opportunity and cultivated them into a thriving enterprise, commanding respect and admiration from peers and competitors alike. As she left for work that morning, her mind was undoubtedly occupied with the intricacies of her expanding business empire. The plan was routine, a trip to the tax preparer's office alongside her husband, Andre. Yet, beneath the surface of ordinary life, the threads of their relationship were fraying. The empire they had built together, once a shared dream, now seemed to rest uneasily upon a foundation of eroding trust. Andre, the charming Air Force major, was a figure of stability and ambition. To the outside world, he was the perfect partner, supportive, successful, a pillar in their shared narrative of achievement. But as Andre sat in the waiting room of the tax preparer's office, papers laid before him, a different story unfolded in his mind. The numbers on the page, stark and unyielding, whispered secrets of financial entanglements and hidden truths. Outside, the day wore on, unhurried and indifferent to the drama playing out within those walls. The clouds above gathered weight and darkness, an apt reflection of the growing turmoil in the McDonald's lives. Yet for all its impending fury, the storm still waited, poised on the brink of release. At that same moment, a friend of Andrian's noted her absence with growing concern. Andrian was not one to deviate from plans or appointments. Her dedication to her work and family was unwavering. This anomaly, a missed meeting, an unreturned call, was unsettling, a small tear in the fabric of daily life that hinted at something much larger. Later that afternoon, deputies arrived at the McDonald residence, ushered by the insistence of a worried voice. The door to 10,042 Solitude Cove creaked open, an invitation into the eerily quiet home. The air was heavy, not just with the moisture of the impending storm, but with a palpable tension that seemed to seep from the very walls. As the officers stepped inside, their presence disturbed the uneasy stillness. They could not have known then that they were crossing into a scene that would soon captivate and horrify a community, a scene where the pursuit of the American dream had collided violently with the human heart's darker desires. The whispers of betrayal, success, and love mingled in the air, an invisible tapestry woven from dreams that had turned to dust and promises that lay shattered on the floor. This was just the beginning. About his wife's whereabouts, Andre appeared detached, his responses evasive and lacking the urgency you would expect from a concerned spouse. His eyes, dark and inscrutable, flickered around the room, settling on anything but the officers' faces. It was as if he were more occupied with cataloging the scene than comprehending the gravity of what had unfolded. The air inside the house was thick with a silence that screamed of absence. Each creak of the floorboards beneath the officers' boots seemed to echo with things unsaid, secrets lingering in the corners, waiting to be uncovered. The scent of singed material hung faintly in the air, mingling with the cloying sweetness of air fresheners trying futilely to mask something more sinister. Outside, the sky had turned a brooding gray, mirroring the turmoil within the MacDonald family. The trees lining Solitude Cove swayed restlessly, whispering among themselves, their leaves stirred by a wind that carried the promise of storm. Thunder rumbled ominously in the distance, a low growl that underlined the tension gripping the once serene neighborhood. As the investigation unfolded, the house on Solitude Cove became a focal point of a community's growing anxiety. Neighbors peered from behind drawn curtains, their whispers carrying tales of Andrianne's kindness, her unyielding dedication to her work, and her vibrant presence that seemed to light up any room. The absence of her laughter was a glaring void that left even the air around her home feeling hollow. Detectives moved through the house with a methodical diligence, their eyes tracing invisible lines of inquiry. The master bathroom, where the night had taken its darkest turn, seemed to hold its breath, reluctant to reveal its secrets. The bloodstains, though cleaned with determined vigor, still marked the space like a stubborn shadow, an indelible mark of a life violently interrupted. In the backyard, the burn pile smoldered in its recent history of destruction. The acrid scent of burnt fabric lingered like an accusation, whispering of evidence reduced to ash. The zipper, a grim relic unearthed from the debris, was a silent testament to the desperation of concealment, a small, metallic reminder of the blouse that Andrianne had worn, now reduced to charred memory. As Andre stood on the periphery of the investigation, his cool composure began to fray under the scrutiny of seasoned detectives. When asked about the burn pile, his explanations were evasive, his voice tinged with a defensiveness that failed to mask underlying tensions. The storm of accusations from the night before echoed in his mind, a relentless tempest that refused to be quieted. The officers watching him noted the subtle tremor in his hands, the way his gaze darted nervously over the scene. It was clear that he was a man caught in a tide of events he could no longer control, his carefully constructed facade beginning to crack under the weight of suspicion. As dusk settled over Solitude Cove, the house remained a hive of activity, each room illuminated by the harsh glare of forensic lights. The search for answers continued, each discovery leading inexorably to more questions. Outside, the sky finally opened, releasing a downpour that washed over the neighborhood, as if attempting to cleanse the darkness that had seeped into its heart. But no amount of rain could erase the memory of what had transpired within those walls. The story of Andrianne MacDonald was yet unfinished, her absence a haunting presence that lingered, demanding justice. And while the storm raged on outside, inside, the search for truth pressed forward, driven by the indomitable spirit of those determined to uncover the grim narrative hidden beneath layers of deception and betrayal. The people closest to Andrianne, who insisted she was a devoted wife and mother. As the investigation unfurled, it became clear that Andre's grievances were not born from betrayal, but rather a manifestation of his own insecurities and control issues. Detective Frank Stubbs knew, deep in his gut, that the truth was lurking just beneath the surface of Andre's carefully curated life. He spent endless nights poring over the details, each new revelation adding to the picture of a man whose facade was crumbling under the weight of his own lies. There was an oppressive tension, a sense of imminent revelation in the air, as if the very walls of the McDonald home were whispering the secrets they had witnessed. The night Andréan vanished, the weather had mirrored the turmoil inside their house. The wind howled like a banshee, rattling the windows as the couple's argument escalated into something darker, something irreparable. Neighbors later reported hearing muffled shouts, a crescendo of voices cut short by a heavy silence that settled over the street like a shroud. Detective Stubbs retraced André's steps in his mind, imagining the cold calculation it must have taken to procure the tools of destruction: the shovel, the axe, and the gas cans, each item a testament to the chilling premeditation of his plan. André's trips to the store and the hospital seemed, in retrospect, not the actions of a frantic husband, but those of a man orchestrating an elaborate ruse. As the days turned into weeks, the desperation in André's eyes began to mutate. What once could have been construed as concern had morphed into a steely resolve, a chilling detachment that unnerved everyone who gazed into his eyes. His behavior was a tightrope act, teetering between maintaining an illusion of innocence and the looming threat of exposure. The breakthrough came with the discovery of digital footprints André had left behind. Investigators pored over his internet history, each search query a breadcrumb leading toward the darkness he had stumbled into. The search for how long before a body decomposes, the curious inquiries about erasing fingerprints, and even the chillingly specific how to dispose of a body without a trace. Each search was a thread, weaving together a tapestry of guilt that was becoming impossible to ignore. Meanwhile, volunteers scoured the Texas landscape, the sweltering heat bearing down as they combed through dense thickets and muddy creek beds. Every rustle of leaves, every snapped twig, held the promise of discovery, the hope of bringing Andréan back to her family, even if only to lay her to rest. André's arrest, while a victory of sorts, was bittersweet. Without Andréan's body, it was as if the final puzzle piece eluded them, a specter dancing just out of reach. Detective Stubbs couldn't shake the image of Andréan, vibrant and full of life, reduced to a statistic, another name whispered in hushed conversations about the dangers lurking behind closed doors. At night, the detective found solace in his daughter's laughter, a reminder of the good things in this world, even as he grappled with the darkness he faced daily. He knew he owed it to Andréan, to the women who lived in fear, to bring this case to a close. She had to be found. Andréan's voice echoed in his mind, a recorded message from the past. If I ever went missing, it would be because André McDonald killed me. It was a plea, a testament to the fear she lived with and a prophecy that demanded fulfillment. As the investigation pressed on, it was not just about solving a case. It was about justice for Andréan, for every woman trapped in silence, waiting to be heard. The truth was out there, waiting to be unearthed, just as Andréan had predicted. The thick, oppressive heat of a Texas summer hung in the air like an unwavering specter, wrapping its humid fingers around the land. The sun's merciless rays bleached the earth, and the fields off Specht Road seemed to stretch infinitely beneath its glare. It was here, amidst the dry whispers of arid grass and the silent testament of nature's cycle, that Clifton Club would stumble upon a grim revelation, shattering the serenity of his private ranch. The morning had been unremarkable, filled with the mundane tasks of ranch upkeep. Clifton moved through his routine with the steady rhythm of a man in sync with the land, his boots crunching softly on the parched soil. As he reached the remote field, a sense of unease prickled at the edge of his consciousness, an intuition sharpened by years of living close to the earth. Among the scattered remains of cattle, his eyes caught something disturbingly out of place, a bone that seemed all too human. A skeletal hand, fingers curled as if grasping for salvation, protruded from the ground. Clifton's heart thundered in his chest, the air suddenly electric with the weight of discovery. The bones lay intermingled with those of animals, deliberately placed in eerie camouflage under the vast, indifferent sky. He reached for his phone, his hands trembling with an urgency that belied the stillness of the field around him. When the authorities arrived, the serenity of the ranch was replaced by a hum of activity, the air filled with the methodical voices and movements of forensic teams. They worked under the watchful eye of Sergeant John Mahan, who surveyed the scene with a grim determination etched into his features. The Texas sun bore down relentlessly as crime scene investigators meticulously sifted through the remains, brushing away layers of dirt and decay to uncover the truth hidden beneath. It was a scene of calculated brutality, a story told in charred bone and ash. The remains bore the scars of fire, the flames a cruel attempt to erase identity, to reduce a life to anonymity. Yet, the human body, even in death, retains its secrets. Among the wreckage, a cross tattoo on a fragment of skin emerged, a silent yet vivid reminder of Andrea MacDonald. But it was dental records that cemented certainty, the indisputable markers of identity that transcended the efforts of fire and time. The physical devastation painted a macabre portrait of violence. Dr. James Figg's examination detailed the savage nature of her demise: blunt force trauma, a fractured spine, broken ribs, and a jaw split with merciless precision. It spoke of rage, a fury that surpassed human comprehension, leaving behind an imprint of horror on the frail architecture of bone. The discovery sent ripples through the community, a collective breath held in the aftermath of revelation. Andre MacDonald's arrest came swiftly, a man now ensnared by the weight of evidence that had lain hidden beneath the earth for months. Yet his countenance in court remained a mask of denial, a study in the art of evasion. For nearly 4 years, under the shadow of accusation, he clung to his innocence with a tenacity that confounded and enraged in equal measure. The trial loomed, a specter in its own right, promising to lay bare the secrets of a marriage built on whispers and shadows. But 3 days before its commencement, a call carved a new path through the narrative. Cindy Johnson, his sister, picked up the phone, her mind spiraling into confusion at the sound of Andre's voice, a voice that had remained obstinately silent until now. What followed was not a confession, but a claim, a desperate narrative framed as self-defense. The words spilled forth, a tangled web of justifications and revelations that left Cindy reeling, her heart a battlefield of nerves and disbelief. Each word was a stone cast into the still pond of silence, rippling outward, challenging the very fabric of justice and truth. The trial promised to unravel the deepest threads of this human tragedy, revealing the truths buried as deeply as Andrea herself had been. The community braced itself for the unfolding of a drama that had, for so long, played out in whispers and shadows, waiting for the light of justice to finally dispel the darkness. The arrest of Andre MacDonald unraveled under the brooding Texas sky, a stark reality cast against the muted whispers and speculations that had enshrouded this tightly knit community. The air was thick with tension as law enforcement arrived at the MacDonald residence, a silent procession of flashing lights and heavy boots, their presence a grim punctuation to a case that had simmered beneath the surface for far too long. Inside, Andre was met with the cold, unwavering gaze of justice. It was a home now abandoned by warmth, where shadows clung to the corners and the echoes of a shattered life reverberated against the walls. The officers moved with precision, their actions a choreographed dance of authority, as they placed handcuffs around Andre's wrists. The metallic clink echoed like a death knell, a grim harbinger of the darkness that lay ahead. With Andre's arrest, the narrative shifted from a hushed whisper to an uproarious cry for justice. The community, once bound by the silent acceptance of the unknown, now found its voice in the pursuit of truth. Neighbors and friends, who had once exchanged knowing glances in the aisles of grocery stores, now found themselves drawn to the courthouse, a shared determination in their eyes, seeking closure and answers to the questions that lay heavy in their hearts. The trial unfolded in the austere confines of the San Antonio courtroom, a stage set for the human drama that was about to unfurl. The air was taut with anticipation, the courtroom packed with spectators, each face etched with a tapestry of emotions, from disbelief to anger, to the faint hope that justice might finally prevail. The walls seemed to pulse with the collective breath of those within, as the prosecution and defense prepared to spar in a battle of wills and words. Assistant District Attorney Stephen Spear, a man whose presence commanded authority, took to the stage with a somber resolve. His voice carried the weight of the evidence, each word a carefully chosen dart aimed at the heart of the matter. He painted a chilling portrait of Andre as a man consumed by rage, a husband who had seen fit to silence his wife with brutal finality. The evidence was laid bare: a bloodied hammer, the damning internet searches, a trail of purchases that spoke of premeditation and concealment. Yet, the defense, helmed by John Convery, wove a narrative of its own, a tale of self-defense and desperation. Convery's voice was a measured cadence, a stark contrast to the emotional tempest that raged within the courtroom. He spoke of Andrianne's strength, of a marriage on the precipice of collapse, and a confrontation spiraling into violence. The defense posited Andre not as a cold-blooded killer, but as a man pushed to the brink. But it was Andre's own testimony that cast the deepest pall over the proceedings. For 4.5 hours, he recounted the events of that fateful night, his words chilling in their lack of remorse. He spoke of anger and confrontation, of a daughter awakened by violence, and a macabre sequence of actions that defied comprehension. His narrative was one of blame and bitterness, devoid of the humanity that should have punctuated such a confession. As the jury deliberated, the air outside crackled with the charged anticipation of closure. Yet the verdict delivered a blow that reverberated through the hearts of Andrianne's family. Not guilty of murder, but guilty of manslaughter. A judgment that felt hollow, an echo of justice left unfinished. The courtroom was a tableau of disbelief, the faces of family and friends a mirror of the sorrow that would persist long after the gavel fell. On sentencing day, the courtroom bore witness to the raw edges of human emotion. Judge Frank Castro's words were a solemn coda, a reflection of the absence of remorse that had underscored the trial. The statement from Andrianne's family were a poignant testament to love and loss, a mosaic of forgiveness and condemnation. And in Elena's words, the innocence and heartbreak of a child who had lost everything lay the true weight of this tragedy, a burden that would linger well beyond the confines of that courtroom, into the lives of all it had touched. Justice, though delayed, emerges inexorably from shadow. Time erodes masks, revealing truths that slice through the heart like a serrated blade. The echoes of Andrianne's cries linger in the humid air, a testament to the indelible stain of violence. In the end, even the darkest secrets succumb to the relentless pursuit of justice.